Hi there. There's a lot of articles and resources out there to help sales reps and higher level VPs of sales, but there's one person who doesn't get a lot of attention: sales managers. These are the people that their job is to take the strategy and intent of others and translate that and execute it through the actions of reps. Unfortunately, there's not a lot out there that's geared towards the role of the sales manager. So Doug and Jess talk through today how you optimize the role of sales manager, how you build the sales manager role, and how you become a more effective sales manager. And also, want to let you know real quick, be prepared. There are a lot more baseball examples and metaphors in today's episode because this was filmed on Doug's New Year's Day. You guessed it, opening day. So, with that, welcome to the RevOps show and enjoy the episode.
All right! Let me hear you! Good and loud! On one, on two, on three! Take me out to the ball game! Take me out to the crowd! Buy me some peanuts and crack to death! I don't care if I ever get back on it's root forward. If they don't win, it's a shame.
We're just gonna listen to the whole thing? Okay, we are.
Yes! 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 It's
Doug,
opening day. It's New Year's.
Yeah, I know. I wish you would have prepared me. I almost wore my Rangers shirt today.
I thought for sure you were. I thought for sure Jess is going to wear a Rangers shirt. I thought that's why you scheduled it for today.
It's totally why I scheduled it for today. It has nothing to do with things that happened earlier in the week.
I mean, given how I was thinking about things when we were originally supposed to schedule this to...
I think it would have been so productive if we would have kept it at its regularly scheduled time.
To New Year's. I mean, it is New Year's, Jess. This is real New Year's Day.
You are decked out and ready, Doug.
I even pulled out the...
I know. I see.
2019 World Champions.
I see.
I am ready to go. 4:10 p.m. And here's the question, Jess.
Uh-huh.
Who are the Nationals playing today?
The Reds.
The Cincinnati Red Stockings.
They are.
So, what's the bet today?
The bet? Oh, I'm not betting.
Bet.
I'm not betting you on whether the Reds are going to win or not.
Wouldn't that disappoint your dad? For you not to stand behind the Reds?
I mean,
what?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But so remember, and look, I get like I'm heartbroken. My team is not in, but this is not baseball season in my mind yet. It is still basketball season.
I don't understand. This is not what I don't understand. This is the most magical day of the year. This is the day where flowers begin to bloom.
Oh, wow.
Grass grows. Babies twinkle in their eyes.
Babies twinkle in their eyes. Okay.
Because they realize that there's something to live for.
Because the babies realize that it's
here.
New Year's Day. Okay, got it.
Well, they don't know that like consciously. But they know they hear the calling. There's something that they can sink their passions into. Something that they can enjoy and be totally devastated by.
Yep. I am legit happy for you. I am. And that this day brings you so much joy.
Well, you should be happy. By the way, who is your team? See, you confused me. Is your team the Rangers or the Reds?
I like both of them. So my team is the Reds. I was excited to see and I am a Rangers fan, but my team is the Reds. I mean, I'm a Rangers fan because I lived in Dallas for 15 years and went to Rangers games.
See, that's an unfair thing to say. You said Texas, then you said Dallas. Okay, we're good. You finally went to Dallas. I think you said Texas first.
I said I'm a Texas fan, which I didn't specify Rangers, but yeah, I lived in Dallas for 15 years.
So how do you feel about the Astros?
I don't like the Astros. Nobody who lives in Dallas likes. I mean, I know that's a blanket statement, but nobody who lives in Dallas likes the Astros.
How do you feel about Nolan Ryan?
So I like Nolan Ryan. Remember, Nolan owned the team for a while, and he did a lot of good things at the ballpark. So like.
Well, okay, hold on a second. If we're gonna go, he owned the team for a while. So did George Bush.
Yeah, he did. You're right. And we're gonna just leave that right there.
He was not such a good owner.
Yeah, no. But when Nolan was owner and we were poor and had no money, we could go to a baseball game for super cheap.
Isn't Nolan back with the Rangers? Isn't he back being an advisor with the Rangers?
I think he's still involved in management in some way, shape, or form.
Because he ran the Rangers, he ran the Astros, which is, I think, pretty interesting.
Yep.
You know what?
Very interesting.
If you haven't seen the Nolan Ryan documentary, it's worth watching. Yeah,
no, it's great. It's great. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I like him.
But it is opening day.
It is opening day
where see, everything is possible today.
You're so positive today. I don't know what to do with this.
Tomorrow you realize, my team actually does still suck. You should be excited though. This should be a good year for the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have the opportunity this year for the Reds to disappoint you. I mean, you haven't had that opportunity in a decade.
For the Reds to disappoint me, you're absolutely right. But you know what? They should get in line with all of the other teams that have disappointed me over the past year.
The Rangers won. They didn't disappoint you.
The Rangers didn't disappoint me. You're right. The Rangers give me hope.
Who disappointed you?
I mean, the Cowboys. I mean, to say the Cowboys disappoint me, I mean, that's I come to expect that they're not going to do anything.
That shouldn't be a disappointment. That's like what the Reds have been. The Reds have just been a bad team.
I mean, Kentucky disappointed me.
Seems pretty standard. Kentucky.
No, it's not.
Let's recruit a bunch of one and done, and then wonder why they flake out.
It's killing me, man. It's killing me, man.
Do you know the average age of the North Carolina Tar Heels, or the players on the UNC
No,
Tar Heels?
I don't actually know
the average age is older than the average age of the Oklahoma, whatever NBA. I forget what the they used to be the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, the Seattle Supersonics.
Yep.
It's like in UNC, I think the average is 22.8 years old, and Oklahoma is 22.6.
That's wild.
And so they've been talking about like the last 3 years, and they're saying it's one of the reasons why the tournament's been more chalk this year is the number of juniors and seniors is like at a 15-year high. Part of the reason too is everyone got an additional year of eligibility because COVID.
Yep.
So anyhow, so everything is possible. Don't worry, I'll be back to my normal, typical salty self tomorrow.
Okay, good, because this is weird.
You knew this was coming, right? You knew this was coming. I even
knew
this morning. Did you like my greeting in our general Slack channel?
I saw it. I did know it was coming.
Does it get any better than Sandlot?
It doesn't get any better than Sandlot. No. So Doug, on this New Year's Day, what are we talking about?
Oh, that's the other song I should bring out. U2's Under a Blood Red Sky. New Year's Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I didn't hear what you said. I was still thinking about opening day.
I know. On this, what are we talking about today, Doug?
Oh, we're talking about the concept of one of the main reasons why Lyft exists, because if I had gone the traditional route, it's the role where I would have gotten fired 10 out of 10 times.
10 out of 10. Not even
Sure.
9 out of 10.
I don't even think it's 99 out of 100.
Wow. That's pretty,
I would have gotten fired
confident.
10 out of 10 times. And the problem was to have gone that, like, this is a role I would have to go through to have been able to do what I wanted to do. I mean, the only reason that I have any authority, and I realize I have no authority here at Lyft, but whatever little authority that I do have, the only reason I have is because I got to skip this step.
Okay, so what role are we talking about?
Sales managers.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would have gotten fired as a sales manager. There was a time where my plan was, actually it was my plan before I ended up going to work at Merrill Lynch, and it was this analysis that led me to decide Merrill Lynch, because I had my whole thought back in the, I guess this might be part of the reason why I get weirded and frustrated with this whole, like, the hype around SaaS, is because I go back to the hype around early tech. Like the idea that you have all these stock option multimillionaires. I've seen 3 rounds of it now, right? So there were the original enterprise high tech. Title of my favorite biography, not autobiography, but biography, was The Difference Between Larry Ellison and God, asterisk. And the subtitle was asterisk, God doesn't think he's Larry Ellison. All right, so I was going to get a sales job at Oracle, become a VP of Oracle, VP of sales at Oracle. I was going to get loaded up with stock options. So like that was stock option multimillionaire round 1. Then we had the AOL, the first internet bubble. That was high tech stock stock option multimillionaire stage 2. That's when Nextel was trading at some ungodly amount because their phones had a walkie-talkie function.
Yep.
And then now we're in, version 3 of SaaS. So yeah, when I started to get recruited at Merrill Lynch, what I realized was if I went the Oracle route, I would have been very good as a rep.
Mm-hmm.
I would have hit my numbers. I would have, I believe that I would be very good. And I think I've got a track record now that backs up. I would have been very good at the VP level.
Yep.
But what I realized is I would never get to the VP level because I'd get fired. I would get fired or I would quit before that opportunity came, because the challenge, what I realized is at the sales rep level, I have to take somebody else's vision and apply it. But one of the great things about being a sales rep, especially back then when you were truly a field sales rep, and was no one actually controlled what you did. Right. So you have flexibility as a sales rep.
Right.
You can't program me for what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, et cetera.
Yep.
I better hit my numbers. Right. And the way I always talked about it was it needs to be legal, moral, ethical, preferably not fattening. But I could operate within my own world, and a really good sales rep learns how to do that. They deal with the politics, they deal with all that. At the VP level, I thought I would be really good because I think I can set strategy and and figure out how to deal with things. The problem in that manager role is that your job is to take the strategy intent of others and translate that and execute it through the actions of others.
Right.
And I realized that I would, like, as a sales rep, I would disagree with a lot of what the strategy or intents were, right? But I'd still get the job done. At a higher level, I'd have some influence and control. But in between, like, what I would not be able to do is take what you wanted me to do and I disagreed with and get somebody that was driving me crazy to begin with and get them to do it and all that. I realized that's ultimately why I said, hey, you know what? Going the Merrill Lynch route gives me large company back me up, lets me play at a higher game, but I still maintain kind of that entrepreneurial feel. So, so we're going to talk about sales managers today.
Yeah. So let's talk about the role of the sales manager.
Well, before, I want to, let's talk about why we're talking about sales managers
Okay.
first.
Okay.
When's the last time you saw something that was geared to the role of sales manager?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, Mike Weinberg has his sales management simplified. He came out. His latest book is First Time Sales Manager, but I can't think of anything else or much else.
Yeah, no, same.
Right.
Yeah.
I think all the attention goes to senior leadership, VP level. So there's like, strategy for growth.
Right.
There's building a sales team, building a sales program. And then there's a whole bunch of, how to sell, sales ideas, sales tips geared to the rep. But there's nothing that's really addressing how do you play the role? How do you optimize the role of sales manager? How do you become a more effective sales manager? And then I would also say organizationally, how do you build that sales manager role? And if you think about it, the sales manager is, in a sales organization, they are the inflection point.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up too about the like, how do you build that role? I don't, and I think this is what you're saying. I don't think companies think about that, right? I think they think about like, what is that VP of sales role? To your point, strategy comes down from the senior leadership, but I don't know that they think about what is that sales manager role? Like, what are we trying to achieve with that?
So I understand that that's the conclusion. I don't think that that's actually accurate. I think that they do think about it. I don't think they think about it a lot, but I think that I think it's that they don't know how to think about it. And I think that they view like the role of sales manager falls into, by the way, basically you're a sales manager if you're not a frontline sales rep and you're not a core part of setting the strategy and direction of the organization, of the sales organization.
Yep.
So manager, director, I think where it falls into is that the key word is manager. So it gets treated as a manager role, like any other manager role. And that's probably 10 to 20% of it. Here's the thing that here's the central point I want to get across before anything. And that is, I remember, when I was at Merrill Lynch, it was an interesting place because you had a lot of independence as long as you were producing and they were unaware of you doing anything illegal. And I say that to be completely candid because I learned that there were people doing some bad shit and, it got found out later. Then it became a problem. But anyways, you really had a tremendous amount of independence.
Yep.
And I forget who it was. It was a rep, it was an advisor. I think he told it to me when it was like early. I wasn't in training anymore, but I was in my, RAMP program. And what he said was, your manager will never be responsible for you being successful, but they can absolutely be a reason that you.
Oh, interesting.
And I had some good managers and I had some shitty managers. And there's no question that the shitty managers hurt my production just because like they just gave me a lot of shit that I didn't have, like that just wasn't worth it. They just created friction in their own, and it made me want to be there less. So like the leverage point in a sales organization, if you're more than 20 salespeople, if you're more than 15, 20 salespeople, the highest lever point in your organization is probably the sales manager.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about the role of sales manager. What is the role of the sales manager?
So obviously there's a element that's very specific to a company and an organization in the situation. So what I want to talk about is kind of what should be universal. And there's three clear points that I think hit the role, the job of the sales manager. And they also represent the latent value of the sales manager. The first thing is, as I talked about, and why I would get fired, is they are the bridge. They are the bridge. They are responsible for making sense of what's happening in the organization and translating that to the sales reps. Because if the sales reps are confused by what's happening in the organization or what the organization is thinking, or like one of the differences when I talked about earlier when I was at Merrill Lynch between a good rep and a bad rep was, did I feel like my manager had my back? Because, one of the probably the suckiest thing about being in sales is you have to constantly make decisions that you won't know the outcome of for a period of time. And not only is what's not only is the outcome of the sales process unknown, but everything else in the organization is unknown. So one of the, and this happens in other roles too, what I'm about to say, but I think it happens even more violently on the sales side, is we often get judged by situations, based on the context of situations that didn't exist and weren't even thought about when we did whatever the thing that we did that we're now getting judged on.
Yep.
Right. And so the question was, like, as a salesperson, you gotta write a check. You gotta make a promise. You gotta do things. You're putting yourself out in a high risk place. You're facing rejection. You're doing all that stuff. And if you're worried about getting called to the carpet,
right,
and not either not being defended or worse, actually being thrown under the bus, then you're going to be so focused internally that you'll never be more than 33% effective in what your actual job is. So if I'm thinking about what's happening internally, if I'm thinking about, there looks like there's a management shakeup, then I'm going to get I'm not going to be able to operate efficiently or effectively.
Right.
And so they've got to translate what's happening up down to the rep. And they equally are the ones that need to be providing the feedback up so that there is a real picture and there is that virtuous circle. They're a major point of leverage, right? If I can influence managers who, by the way, should know and understand things at a deeper level.
Right.
And Jess, you may not know this, but it's opening day today.
Right? I wasn't aware.
Do the best baseball players make the best baseball managers?
No,
not often. Not often, right? Why do you think that is?
Because those who cannot do teach. I'm kidding.
Those who can't hit the curveball, play lacrosse, or become managers.
No, so I think it's because as a player, I feel like you're focused on your game, how to improve your game, and I think managers are looking at things more holistically.
So managers are, as a matter of fact, in the last 20 years, I can only think of one person who was a manager who did not play professional baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So why do players become managers? And some of them are great. And by the way, the best managers played Major League Baseball,
right?
For the most part, not always, but for the most part. But why don't the best players make the best managers? Because I'm still a player, so I'm still thinking about myself.
Right.
Here's my thought. By the way, what position has the highest likelihood of being a good manager?
I don't know.
Catcher.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
Why are catchers most likely to be the best managers?
Because you're watching the whole field all the time.
You have to. So you're calling the pitch, you're calling plays, you're calling situations. You need to know what the situation is. You need to know where people are. You need to understand the game at a deeper level. By the way,
right.
As a catcher, you're both on the field team, so you're taking batting practice, you're doing all that, but you're also on the pitching staff.
Yep.
The physical, mental, and time toll of being a catcher is estimated to cost most catchers 50 to 100 points on their batting average.
Oh, interesting.
And if you think about it, and by the way, part of the reason is if I'm playing first base, like all I have to do is think about hitting.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm the catcher, I have to study by the way, as the catcher, I'm studying all the opposing hitters. I have to understand all the scouting reports.
Yep.
So, and I don't know any catcher that can be a catcher and doesn't grind.
Right.
Right. Here's my question. Did A-Rod grind? Did he grind? I'm not being anti A-Rod.
Right.
Right. But what I'm saying about A-Rod is A-Rod had a talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just you're gifted. Right.
Yeah.
You can't learn, you can't do. And so that manager should understand, like you don't have to understand sales to be great at it.
Right.
But as a manager, you should understand sales. Right.
Yeah.
You should understand more of that. You're the point of leverage. So you've got multiple reps. How do I influence more than one rep at a time? Where do I get that greater context? And when you take a look at organizations, once you start getting to mid-market, right? So now let's say we're talking about 50 salespeople. When you look at performance and CEB, this was research that's in the Challenger sale. It doesn't get talked about anywhere near to the level that the challenge part of Challenger sale does. But when you're looking at organizational performance, you don't get the greatest juice for the squeeze by improving the best. Like it's not making your best reps better that gives you the juice for the squeeze. It's improving the middle section of reps. That's where there's greater improvement. That's where there's greater impact, right? And it's the manager that's in the point of having to do of the role of doing that on a daily basis. Now, unfortunately, what happens far, far too often is the manager is in actuality the big game hunter closer.
Right. Yep.
Right. They are the CRM disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Right. They become CRM jockeys.
Yep.
Or I like to call this, and this is where I see far too many roles, sales manager roles fall into, is they're the pile of shit mover. They move this pile of shit from here to there, and they move that pile of shit from there to here. Right. And it's okay. I'm parroting what management is saying to you back, et cetera. There is no real ownership. And by the way, I think one of the toughest things to be a sales manager is to really feel that ownership, because you can't control, like your job is translating, but how do you still own that? And, one of the reasons why I think I would get fired with sales reps is that I would not say rep what I probably needed to say, because I would view it as lying. I'm like I wouldn't tell you we're really committed to this change. Right. But I'm like, we're really committed to this change until 2 weeks from now when someone else brings up some idea that says, oh, you should be doing it. Like I would probably say that. Yeah. I would probably say something like, look, guys, I'm telling you, we are really committed to this change until someone finds something they think will be easier. Then we'll be committed to that change. And that would probably get me fired.
So that makes sense on the role of the sales manager. So what should the priorities of the sales manager be? Like, if you want to be a successful sales manager, what should your priorities be?
I think that you should have 5. I think there's only 5 priorities.
Okay.
I think performance management is number 1. As a sales manager, there is a management role, which is about the business organization process, the HR policies, I'm sorry you didn't request that time off.
Right.
But that's not the manager role. They're a performance manager. It's about managing performance. It's about understanding performance. This is one of the reasons why I love baseball, is because baseball is such a grind. And this is why there's so many analogies. By the way, you can't get mad at me today for baseball analogies, because it is opening day. I get unlimited number of baseball metaphors.
Wow.
I mean, you play 30 days in a row in the hot sun. So as you know, I coach college. I think the most games we played in a season, I think we got to like 65. So we only played 65 games. Now we played those 65 games in roughly, I think it was like 90 days. right? You know what the hardest thing about that was?
What?
It's boring as shit. Get on the bus. Drive the bus to there. You got to get to the game X hours early so that everyone can get stretched out, et cetera. Then they can go through their batting practice. So you're either the home team, right? You typically do batting practice first.
Right.
But you're out. So you're out super, super early, by the way. You got to be out early enough so you can be off the field.
Right.
So the visiting team can come on and do their BP.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So you go through that, right? Then you play 2.5 hour, 3 hour intense game. Then you've got to be like, and then the next day you do it again. And the next day you do it again.
Right.
That's why one of my favorite things is the national anthem standoff. That's why they do that. It's because it's so tortuous that you find just a whole bunch of different ways to entertain yourself. One of my favorite things that Joe Madden never did, and the reason that Joe Madden was a great manager, like I have said that, I mean, he understood the game. He understands the game of baseball probably as well as anybody. I think he gets too cute by half. I think one of the reasons he probably didn't win the number of series that he should have won, didn't have the W's to the level of how great he was, is because I would be a Joe Madden type manager in this. I've mentioned this before. Is I would do too many things because, this is great. Let's take advantage of that. Right?
Yeah.
But what he knew how to do was he knew how to manage performance. He knew how to keep people loose. Right. And so my favorite story of the year the Cubs won the World Series was he had, I can't remember if it was a week or a month, but it was he called it back to high school. And so like in Major League Baseball, if you've got a 7:00 game, the latest somebody gets into the clubhouse is noon. Right. They have a meal, they go through a workout, they get treatment, there's all this prep. So you're 7 hours into before first pitch is thrown. Right. Now in high school baseball, you probably show up 30, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe an hour and a half before the game. You throw on your spikes, you get it right. And that's what it was like. Show up 90 minutes before game time. We're not taking BP. We're showing up. We're putting on our cleats, putting on our spikes. We're going out and play. And it was just relaxed. And so if you think about it, you've got, all these people playing an intense day after day after day. It's managing that. That is the role. That is the number one priority, is understanding performance and managing that performance. Right.
Yep.
The second priority is recruiting. Sales managers are the recruiters of sales. You need to be constantly working on your team, developing your team. And it is the sales manager who's out and looking hey, who would be good for us? Who would be good for us? So recruiting is a major element. By the way, a lot of the things that you see geared to sales managers are really all about sales recruiting. But recruiting is the second priority.
Okay.
Third priority is forecasting. Right. You've got to be providing direction to above so that they can be making smart decisions.
Yep.
And you've got to be providing direction below to manage that. So real forecasting in the real sense, not just, forecasting to cover your ass. The fourth priority is facilitation and communication. Your job is to make work light for others. Okay. Yep. Your job is to know, how do things work in your organization? I think great sales managers have what I call huge value nets. They know lots and lots and lots of people for different things. So like a great sales manager, your water heater blew up and your basement's flooding.
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I know a guy, call so-and-so, tell them I called it. They're like, and I mean, that has nothing to do with the company, that has nothing to do with selling. But it's like, hey, that's the shit. And I'm not saying you have to know a good plumber, but that's the type of facilitation and communication internally, externally. You know who would have been a great sales manager?
Who?
Blue from oh my God, I'm going blank on the oh my gosh, the jail film, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Right. A great sales manager knows how to get things done. By the way, here's the interesting thing. They know how to get things. They know how to get things. It's not necessarily that they get shit done. That's probably one of the toughest elements. Someone who gets shit done oftentimes gets into the role of manager, but there's no leverage in you getting shit done. Right. And that's where you burn out.
Yep.
And then I saved this priority for last because it's the second most important.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which is?
I started with the most important. I'm going to finish so that way you remember the sandwiches.
Yeah.
Learning and development.
Okay.
Learning and this is like a very small percentage of I would say probably less than 2% of sales managers are playing any active role in learning and development. I'd say less than 10% of sales managers even think about learning and development. A part of sales performance is coaching. You are the coach.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be coaching. Yes, you need to. Yes, you need to manage.
Right.
By the way, in large companies where they have actual coaching and learning and development teams, that's fine and that's great. But as a sales manager, if you're not a part of that, if that's not like, that's the asset test. You can give me all the training, all the learning and development, all the coaching, and you put me back under the sales manager. And if what the sales manager isn't doing, isn't living and breathing that on a daily basis, you can just flush that stuff down the toilet.
Right.
Yep. So the sales manager is responsible for developing the reps. So sales performance, recruiting, forecasting, facilitation, communication, learning and development. So
how do you get the most out of your sales manager? How do you get the most? I'm wanting to say ROI, but I don't know if that's the right term for it. But how do you get the most out of your sales manager?
Prayer, hope.
Oh, I find that works well in all scenarios. Hope and pray.
That's what most groups do. I feel bad for the spot that most sales managers are put in because they're put in a crucially important role, but they're not put in that role in a way to be successful. And even among the best organizations that I've seen, lots of time and attention is spent to how do we build this role in a way that the right person can be successful. So I think that there's 10 areas that a business needs to provide so that a sales manager can be successful. And I'm going to tell you right now that the challenge of these 10 is that they very likely have some costs associated to them. They very likely have time and energy requirements to them. There's probably some overhead associated to them. And the difficulty with that is it's like talking to somebody who's feeling overwhelmed with too much on their plate and suggesting they should map workflows before they build them. The question is your sales manager leveraging and if they're not leveraging, then they're actually creating costs because they create bureaucracy. They have a reduction impact. So the only way you make that up is with volume, et cetera. So the first one is you've got to have a defined dynamic sales process and sales methodology. And I'm going to go further than that to say what you need to have for a sales process and sales methodology to be effective and dynamic, there needs to be a framework.
Right.
The framework is what allows for that flexibility. Because, by the way, you're going to have different managers with different styles who are managing different salespeople with lots of different styles. So there can't be only one way to do it right. There has to be lots of ways to be able to do that. And that has to be defined, or what's going to happen is you're going to get more lone wolf. And that means as you grow, sales managers aren't consolidating complexity. They're creating complexity. You're actually getting more lone wolf. And that's one of the reasons why, now your forecasting really begins to break down because no one's actually looking at things in the same way. You've got this sales manager who's a little bit more of the pessimist, this sales manager who's the optimist, this like all these different things are happening. And then, someone shifts and, it's management by personality, which is no different than selling by personality. So there needs to be an MO, there needs to be a framework for the sales manager to be able to leverage, to be able to provide that consistency. The second was
I was going to ask. Yeah, no, that made sense. What's the next one?
You need to have strong go-to-market strategy, right? And the strategy needs to be clearly communicated. What's the economic model? What's the game that we're playing? How do the economics work? I think one of the key places where, were I running an organization with 5 or more sales managers, I would make sure that for them, there's ongoing training. I'm going to talk about training and development, but there's ongoing training and business acumen development. They really need to understand. Like I want a business person who sells, but a sales manager needs to be a business person. A sales manager is the owner of that franchise.
And the sales manager is not the one setting that strategy, right? That's the executive team. That's your VP of sales, maybe even be involved in that. They're more the conduit communicating that down to the.
And I think that there's an application of it as well. I mean, there are probably some places where, like the breadth of application might widen or reduce. But I mean, heck, even if I own a McDonald's franchise. There's an awful lot of shit that's just straightened out, but that doesn't mean that this franchisee doesn't sponsor the local little league, and that like all those things, and understanding your market and what about your market, and staffing levels and all those various things. Like we need to have those levers that are there, But they need to be like, there needs to be that very coherent philosophy, that the very clear hypothesis of so like we can all be moving to that same place. They're not creating it necessarily, but I'll tell you, if a sales manager has been in that role for 18 to 24 months and they don't see some of themselves in that strategy, then that's a pretty good indicator that they're either the wrong sales manager for the organization, or the organization is the wrong one for them.
Okay, interesting.
Because their feedback should be, I mean, they're a living, breathing element of that feedback, and good strategy is a continuous loop.
Okay.
Clear goals and expectations. Clear goals and expectations. Clear goals and expectations. And that means be clear in the goals and expectations. That means when you have a bad quarter and suddenly the expectations shift, don't expect the same leverage. If I'm having to, if I'm looking to build scale, there needs to be a level of consistency. Now, I think one of the things to understand is when you look from the outside, it might look a lot crazier than it is from the inside. I think in most organizations that are doing something special, an outsider who doesn't have a full understanding of what the operating system is and what the neural connections are from an outside, what they're doing looks like chaos, looks like it doesn't make any sense. The way I like to think of it is it'd be kind of like watching a video game without the UI. It's just a bunch of random pixels going across the screen. Right. And so this is something very, very hard to diagnose from the outside. And by the way, equally, you can diagnose from the outside and go, look at that. Oh, that company's just genius. They've hit their quarter for 36 months in a row, or 36 quarters in a row. They are, like, you cannot judge this stuff from the outside, but there need, like, if I don't know where I'm going, then how am I going to get there? And how am I going to create the pathway for others?
Right. Yep.
Provide. So the next goal, the next area of focus for successful, you have to be willing to provide the resources to be successful. Right. And this is two areas. One is you've got to give the sales managers the tools that they need to be successful. Right. Which gets into technology, what's their support team, what information is being shared with them. But the biggest place is how many salespeople does a sales manager have?
Oh.
And I think this is a place where lots of companies set up their sales managers to fail.
Okay.
So I think for a sales manager to be like, I think there's very rare cases where a sales manager should have fewer than 5 direct reports.
Okay. Oh, you didn't go where I thought you were going to go with that.
Where do you think I was going to go?
I thought you were going to go, they should not have more than.
Oh, that's where I was going next.
Okay.
They should not have more than 10.
Okay.
And under no circumstances should they have more than 15.
Okay.
Like, once you get above 10,
yeah.
And I understand, if it's a simpler sale and a straighter sale and you're in that 10 to 12 range, okay.
Yep.
It's going to, it better be real. And I can understand, if you're growing, hey, we're getting to 10. Okay, we're now stretching our capacity here. We should be looking for another sales manager to begin to break that up. But so 5 to 10 to me is the sweet spot. Because when I have more than 5 to 10 people, I can't do the job that's necessary.
Right.
I can't provide the support that's necessary.
Yep.
I know a sales manager that has 25 sales reps. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
That's wild. So what else do they need to be successful?
They need the training and development. No one's born a sales manager.
Right. No.
Right. So they need the development as well. Right. They need to. There's a whole science of performance. There's a science of behavior. But by the way, they need the growth track. Mm-hmm.
Is that a place where you see is frequently lacking? Because I know we talk about sales rep training a lot. I don't hear us talking about training and development of sales managers that frequently.
Yeah, I don't think that there's real dedicated focused training on that. Yeah, I think that there's not a lot out there. Yeah.
Yep.
So training and development, then what makes all of this work is empowerment and authority. Like they need to be able to make decisions.
Yep.
You can tell when a sales manager can't make decisions. And if the sales reps that I know that are any good, they can smell that out real fast. And if you're somebody that's like, oh.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit with CSM when we talked about CSM. Like if all you're doing is if all you're doing is implementing the company policy and then you're like, oh, well, I'll check on that. Oh, I'll see what we can do.
Right.
There are so many choices that need to be made every day that are so ambiguous. They've got to be empowered. By the way, they have to be accountable to that. They have to learn from that.
Right.
They and again, you need to know that I am speaking for the organization.
Right.
Which, by the way, also means you got to give them, this is the next one, access and support.
Right.
Like if I'm going to be the facilitator, if I'm going to be able to know how to get things done, if I'm going to make work light for others, then I have to have the access and support. If I need to talk to the CFO fucking talks to me.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like what we need to do, what companies need to do is to teach their entire company that the sales manager is the enablement zone of our sales organization. And it's like the Fram oil filter man. You're going to pay them now or pay them later. Don't get mad at their salespeople for doing things that they're not supposed to do if you're not giving them the access and support that they need.
Yep.
The next area is they need the tech. They need a strong CRM configured the right way, and they need whatever other right tech that they need, and no more than that. What I find is most sales managers are in a place where they're more likely not to have the tech that they need. By the way, the most common thing is they don't have the tech that they need, but they've got other tech that's a pain in the ass that they have to deal with, right? But it is important to protect sales managers from what I call tech bloat.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I need the tech that I need. I need it to be simple. I can't be thinking about the tech. I need the data. I need the insights. I need to know what's going on so that I can be a performance manager. By the way, if you're serious about growth, we are looking to scale growth. If you are serious about growth, then you better be thinking about it in the same way that every other performance organization thinks about it. And that is, Davey Martinez, manager of the Washington Nationals, undefeated so far this season, gets a full report from the data and analytics team before he's talking to players. The Nationals just hired on staff Sean Doolittle, one of my favorite players who played for the Nationals before. He's their, I forget what the title is, but basically he's the analytics translator. And the reason was he was a ball player, great closer for a period of time, began to appreciate and understand analytics. So he's the person that kind of, hey, we want to make sure that this pitcher isn't overloaded with it. So Doolittle's getting the analytics and being able to share that with the player from a player's perspective. And like, that's what the sales manager needs to do, but they need the analytics and they need to be taught how to use the analytics.
Yep.
The ninth area is they need a RevOps team. They need RevOps support. If they're having to do low value activities, if they're not being proactively supported with the right things, then they're not going to be successful. I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say, if RevOps has one job, if RevOps can only do one job, if RevOps can only make one person in the organization happy or one role in the organization happy, that role is the sales manager. I
need to think on that, but I like me first hearing it, I don't disagree with it, because I'm thinking about where I'm able, like as the RevOps support frequently, the main point of contact. That's actually usually the person I want to leverage because I can get more done.
You get your kicks in RevOps by playing around strategy and development and this. And the reality is, if you want to make a difference, if you want to be for the company that is serious about growth, everything that you're doing exists to enable and leverage the sales manager. Because that's the sales manager is where it gets real.
Well, and it makes sense. Like you mentioned that the sales manager is the inflection point. That is where you want to have that impact, right?
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that puts a responsibility and accountability on the sales manager. I see deal desks, and too often sales managers are involved in deal desks because they need the sales manager's authority to push things through the deal desk. But what that does is it creates not just a constraint, which can be good. It creates a conflict.
Yeah.
The sales manager should be the owner of that business, right? They need to understand the unit economics. They should be pulling in the right direction. The deal desk should be there to enable. Now, by the way, that means sometimes the deal desk is the bad guy, right? Because I'm the sales manager. I go, Jess, look, it was up to me. I would give it to you because I want you to close this piece of business, but we're not going to be able to get this through deal desk.
Yeah.
And here's why. So RevOps exists for the sales manager.
Yep.
And then the last one is you need to be responsive to the sales manager.
Yep.
They're in this in between place, and they're getting prospect issues. They got salesperson issues. They got like all that. You need to be responsive to.
Yep.
So is the juice worth the squeeze, Jess? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I was going to ask, so let's assume we've done all those things to get the most out of it. So how does that impact the organization? What's the impact of having a good sales manager?
A good sales manager should have this type of impact. They should be increasing the economic impact of your sales organization by 15 to 25%. That doesn't mean increasing sales or revenue by 15 to 25%. That means the economic impact of what you're doing by 15 to 25%. If you think about the cost of turnover, but every time somebody leaves, it's going to cost you 200 to 400%. There's a 200 to 400% cost for that. A good sales manager will reduce turnover by 20 to 50%. Now, by the way, even more than that, which by the way would also move up your impact on performance. There's a lot of sales reps who kind of quit without quitting.
Right.
A good sales manager reduces that as well. By the way, they also get the wrong salesperson out faster.
Right.
And keep the right salesperson in longer. They're going to have a 5 to 10% increase in retention or lifetime of a customer. And by the way, keep in mind that a 5 to 10% increase in retention and lifetime equates to a 25 to 95% increase in profitability of a customer. And that's actually that's research from Bain. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about small pieces here. And a strong sales manager is going to improve efficiency by 10 to 20%. A strong sales manager is going to increase 50 to 100% of the overall impact of a team.
That's significant.
So let's say it's 25 to 50%. Let's just say it's 25 to 50%. Mm-hmm. It still comes down to, well, wait a second. We can't really afford to have 7 reps per.
Right.
No, you can. You can.
Yeah.
Because if you need to take money from somewhere else, take money from somewhere else.
Right.
We can't afford to invest and enable the sales manager. Yes, you can, because you show me something else that you're doing that's having this impact. Think about all the stuff that your marketing team's doing that's just going unused. Your sales manager is going to change that game.
Yep. I have a couple of takeaways. So sales managers not making the better reps better, they're improving kind of those mid reps, which interesting.
They are making the better reps better, but where the inflection is, where the juice is that middle tranche.
Access, support, and authority are key to enabling your sales manager to be successful. Don't sleep on training and development for your sales managers. And I kind of view that as that goes downstream. So they need to have the training so they can then coach and train the reps underneath them. The job of the sales manager is to make work light for others. And then we've hit on this in several places. The sales manager is the inflection point and the enablement zone of your sales org. So it's critical role there.
Hey, Jess.
Yes, Doug.
I'll see you at the ballpark.
Until next time.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the RevOps Show. As a quick recap, or at least as quick as I possibly can, there are 5 priorities you should have as a sales manager: performance management, recruiting, forecasting, facilitation and communication, and learning and development. And outside of prayer and hope, there are 10 areas that a business needs to provide so that a sales manager can be successful. Having a defined dynamic sales process and sales methodology, having a strong go-to-market strategy, training and development, clear goals and expectations, be willing to provide the resources to be successful, empowerment and authority, access and support, having the tech they need, understanding of the unit economics, and being responsive to the sales manager. Was that quick enough for you? Anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate it if you gave us a rating and shared the episode as well. If you have any questions you would like to ask Doug and Jess about the sales manager role, feel free to email me at hannah@liftenablement.com or hit us up on LinkedIn at Lift Enablement. Now until next time, just say no to shitty RevOps.